name is Linda Boyle. I'm actually a professor in industrial and systems engineering. I'm also the chair of the department. The person outside that was handing out flyers, she's our academic advisor. Her name is Jennifer Say, and we have another faculty member here, Professor Archie Gate, who's here to answer any questions if you guys have any. So what I thought I would do today is basically talk about what is industrial engineering, where do industrial engineers get jobs, what classes did you take if you come here to the University of Washington, where do our graduates go after they get their degree, and I was going to just give you a little insight about my research area as well. Sometimes when students come, particularly undergraduate students who are not sure what they want to do, they might want to work in a research lab. So I'm just going to give you an example of some of the things that they would do. So I guess the first question I always like to ask people is, do you know what industrial engineering is? Yes? So one person, what's an industrial engineer? In the back there.
It's really about efficiency, making sure that the whatever work environment you are in is the people or the equipment is moving through in the best way possible.
Exactly. So basically what industrial engineering does is basically design things to make things better quality, higher productivity, as well as easier and safer to use. So we want to make sure that as it moves through the system, that it works well, that there's nothing that can be harmful to the human beings or the people like you. And industrial and systems engineering is a major that you might actually like if you like mathematics, statistics, the social and behavioral sciences, if you like to problem solve, if you like to design for people, as well as work with people. So what industrial engineers do is that they examine the entire systems by looking at how people and things kind of move together. And they do that by thinking about people in terms of like what the energy is that we use around us, our society, as well as the technological impacts and how we actually integrate that, and then the environment. So we look at all of that all together. So just to kind of give you a little background, those of you who are not familiar with what industrial engineering is, this is Frank and Lillian Gilbreth. They actually started this concept of efficiency back in the 1900s. So they took actually this idea of efficiency to the extreme. How many of you have heard of a movie called Cheaper by the Dozen? No, not the Hilary Duff version, but the old one with Myrna Loy. It's actually on Netflix. And it's actually a really cool movie because the very first line of the movie says, "Hello, this is Frank Gilbreth. He is an industrial engineer." And I got super excited because here's a movie, and the very first line talks about being an industrial engineer. The reason why the movie is called Cheaper by the Dozen is because he had 12 kids, and he basically ran his whole entire house like he did a manufacturing firm. He basically time-stopped all of his kids, watched them while they brushed their teeth, ate breakfast, ate eggs, and when one of his kids had to get a molar out, he got really excited because he wanted to be able to monitor the whole entire process and figure out where you can actually make it more efficient. Actually, there's a really famous story where he actually thought it'd be faster to shave with 2 razors instead of 1. The time it took to basically clean the wound, put on a bandage, took longer, so he went back to 1 razor. And the other thing, his wife is also very well known. She is actually the first working female engineer, industrial engineer, with a PhD. She is the first woman in the National Academy of Engineers, and she is member number 1 in the Society of Women Engineers. It's pretty awesome, huh? How many of you have ever been to Disneyland? How many of you have ever been to Splash Mountain? Yeah, that's me in Splash Mountain, and that's my daughter. Notice what I'm doing, and that's what she's doing. Anyway, how many of you, because Splash Mountain is actually, there's a lot of long lines, how many of you have ever used a Fast Pass? Yeah. So, by the way, Fast Pass, that's industrial engineering. It was actually developed by an industrial engineer at the University of Florida who basically wanted to make sure that people had more time to basically, utilize the parks and make them more efficient. So what they do, there's actually a lot of industrial engineers at the Disney company. They basically look at improving the process and enhancing productivity in general. And then what they do is they spend a lot of time trying to understand what the cues are, how to forecast out wait times, and trying to improve the overall experience for families so that they can basically spend more time together. So if they see that basically, so they have actually something that's sort of an advanced version of FastPass now. It's called the Magic Band, and they have that at Disney World, where they basically, if they can see that you've been waiting online for more than 2 hours, they'll send Disney characters over to you to kind of enhance your experience. The person in Disney that actually did a lot of this work was somebody named Erin Wallace, who was also an industrial engineer. She was the senior vice president at Disney for quite some time, and now she's the chief operating officer at Learning Care Groups, which are basically private child cares. The other thing that industrial engineers do is that they spend a lot of time speeding up delivery from supplier to the customer. They look at improving operations like the routings, the layouts, scheduling, and enhancing safety and performance overall. So locally, there's a lot of industrial engineers here that basically work at Boeing and places like UPS. And industrial engineers are actually everywhere. So they've been up in the moon, they've been astronauts. How many of you saw the movie Back to the Future? The DeLorean, that was designed by an industrial engineer. Yeah. And then how many of you know the movie Little Shop of Horrors? Little Shop. That's industrial engineering. Roger Corman, basically he's also the producer of Rock and Roll High School. Industrial engineer. The other thing that you see industrial engineers are in sports. They basically have been in football and baseball as well as in track and field. In terms of like businesses, they actually have been, industrial engineers are oftentimes like in managerial positions. So they have been at the chairman of Chrysler, Ford, a Bank of America, DuPont, as well as the CEO of UPS. You know what else you could do as an industrial engineer? You could become the president of a country. Yeah, that's right. The 76th president of Bolivia is an industrial engineer from Texas A&M. Yeah. You know what else you could do? Seattle Mariners. The former president of the Seattle Mariners, industrial engineer from Purdue University. Yeah. How many of you have an iPhone? Yeah. CEO of Apple, industrial engineer. That's right. These are all industrial engineering. So you can do a lot of things. And why is it that you can do all these things? A lot of it has to do with how we look at things and the systems approach to it. And trying to understand like what you do. So these are some of the classes that you would take if you come in as an undergraduate student. You would take classes in understanding financially how you actually manage projects. So that's engineering economics. And then because we also deal a lot with people and with things, and there's a lot of uncertainty with it, we give you a lot of classes in probability and statistics, and then trying to understand very complex decision-making things. So that includes modeling and computations, as well as trying to understand how you lay things out, manufacturing and production systems. And then there's also things with regards to facilities layouts, and then understanding because you are designing for humans and also working with humans, there's a lot of classes in human factors and ergonomics as well. And then we also have classes in quality control, trying to understand how you maintain the quality of the overall products. So our students basically get internships and jobs in various areas, including consulting, communication, manufacturing operations, and technology. So these are a snippet of some of the places that our students go get jobs. And then they also get jobs also in medical services, transportation, as well as in research. So they work in a very broad range of fields. Now, as a student, one of the things that we do is we have a senior capstone project, and many other departments has this as well. What's unique within industrial engineering is we actually work with a lot of real-world companies. So these are some of the companies that our students work with. So when you become a senior, you actually get in groups of like 4 to 5, and then you work directly with the company on a specific project that lasts about 6 months. And then oftentimes many of the students, because they've been working with them, it's kind of an opportunity for the company to also kind of see what you're doing as well, and then there are potentials to basically look at hiring. So this is like some of the things that we do. This is the faculty that we have. We have 10 faculty. This is me right here. And then Archis is over there. And so I'm just going to give you a little overview about like some of the work that I do. So I work in the area of human factors, and I spend a lot of time looking at human factors and transportation issues. So what that is it's the study of factors and development of tools that can enhance the interactions among the driver, vehicle, and roadway. So in other words, it's not just looking at the driver, but looking at how the driver interacts with everything around them, and understand how to make sure that when we go from point A to point B, that we are safe doing it. So I look at basically enhancing performance, increasing driver satisfaction and comfort, and more importantly, understanding the safety aspects. Oftentimes when we're designing cars, we don't really think about the safety. We think about the design, the technology, and how cool it is. But it's very, very important to also think about the safety. So I'll give you an example. So here is a vehicle that was designed in 2002. This is a BMW 745 iDrive. At the time that the car came out in 2002, it was about $75,000. So they have something called the iDrive, which is basically this knob here. The very first version of this vehicle, they had everything basically centered in here. So, like for example, right now, if you wanted to turn up the volume on your radio, how would you do that right now? Yeah, you just basically turn the knob. Sometimes people have a thing on the steering wheel where they just basically move up. In this car, you could not actually do that. So to turn up the volume here, what you had to do was you had to go to this iDrive. You had to toggle to the word entertainment. And then once you got to the word entertainment, you had to find the word radio. And then you had to select either AM or FM. And then select the knob for volume before you actually adjust the volume. And you try to do this while you're driving. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps in the same time that you would actually turn the knob. So the question I have for you is that safe? No, but somebody thought it was okay. So they actually designed this vehicle, and it's actually on the road. And there was many actually reviews about the system, about how cumbersome it was and how difficult it was to maintain your position while you were driving. So I spent a lot of time looking at the car of the future, trying to understand how technology is changing the nature of driving. And nowadays, if you look at our cars, there's many integrated and non-integrated features. So in other words, there's a lot of things that are driving related that basically looks at vehicle-to-vehicle communication, as well as things in the car that you can do like more socially. It was interesting because there was an article back in the fall of 2010, so 7 years ago, where it said the following: an automobile that's so safe, nobody will die in it. New technologies are bringing us ever closer together. And what they were saying was all those red dots are basically systems that they were hoping to put in place. And now here it is, the year 2017, and many of these systems are in place. But are we really at, 0 fatalities? Are we at 0 crashes? And so many people would say, no, we're not. And also many times people would actually say, I still see a lot of people doing crazy things in the car. So I always ask people, how many of you actually text while you drive? Yeah, okay, good answer, good answer. Okay, so let me ask it another way. How many of you have seen other people text while they're driving? Yeah, everybody has seen everybody else do it, but nobody in here does it. That's good, that's good. So anyway, what we do actually, we spend a lot of time looking at people's behavior and understanding why they do the things they do. And we look at not just objective measures, in other words, we collect measures about what they actually do, but we also ask them questions about what they think that they should be doing. And so we try to basically look at that relationship between the two. So our mission is basically to provide knowledge on what the driver behavior is so that we can enhance driver safety and basically look at systems that integrate and account for the driver-vehicle interactions. So in my lab, we have an instrumented car where we collect all this data on you, and then we also have a driving simulator. And in the driving simulator, we try to do testing more to the extreme because there are certain things that you don't want to see on the road, but you want to know what the thresholds are. So we basically do testing in both environments. So as part of the work that we do, we not only collect stuff in the lab, but we also collect it on the road. And we do this for many different types of at-risk populations. So we have done it for teen drivers, we've looked at truck drivers, we've looked at older drivers, etc. So I have a clip actually to show you of an example of a truck driver basically driving on the road. And one of the things that you'll see is studies actually show that if you're looking off the road for more than 2 seconds, that you're actually at a danger of being at a higher likelihood of a crash risk. So look at this person and tell me how many seconds that he's been looking off the road. Oh. So I'll play that again in a second. So in this, by the way, so just so that you know, all the people that participate in our studies, they know that they're being videotaped. They actually sign an informed consent asking if we can actually use their video for things. So this person actually knows he's being videotaped and he still does it. Why is that? So we all think that we're safe drivers, and we probably are all mostly safe drivers, but we still tend to do certain things. Why do you think that is? It's because people think that other people are not watching them, is what it is, even if they are watching them. And so I'll show you this again. I have to find my cursor. So remember, I said it's like 2 seconds. So 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. So he's still trying to he's really thirsty and really wants to get his Coke. So he's still doing that. So one of the reasons why he felt it was okay to do this, because if you look at this front scene, there's no traffic. So he feels like he's not going to hit anything and it's just a straight road, so that if he keeps his wheels safe, he should be okay. Or is he? So let's say this particular driver was next to this driver. This is a teen driver who has only had her license for less than 6 months. And what she's doing, I'm going to just tell you what she's going to do. She's putting on lipstick. What a lot of new drivers do is that when she's putting on her lipstick, she's actually moving the steering wheel alongside. And so you'll see her veer off the road, and you'll see what happens. So there's a car there, and she turns around. And so in this video, she thinks it's okay to and she's just sort of veering off the road, and she's by watching what she's doing as well. And I'll play it one more time. So she's just putting on this, but she's veering off the road, and you can tell she's still looking forward, but because she's veering, there's a car there. So she turns around, and there's a truck right there. So if this truck was that other truck driver, it would have actually been very dangerous. So these are things that we kind of look out for. So going back to that first driver, he basically thought that he was on an open road and that it was okay to just basically do other things. But I have one more clip that basically shows that even if the road is wide open, there are things that kind of come about that you're not going to expect. So this is another truck driver, and he's actually alert. I think he looks like Bruce Willis, so you can tell me, what do you think? And so he's basically driving, and so I'm going to ask you to look at this scene here. Yeah, so this is a median, and it's actually a really, it's like completely covered, and this person just comes across. I'll show it to you one more time. But here's the thing about this video. So again, all these people know that they're being videotaped. And this was a study that we did that we wanted to see if providing feedback to truck drivers would actually be effective. So he does, in this case, he does the right thing, which is he sees that, he slows down, you can see that he's braking, and then he pulls over to make sure that the person is okay. So even though that has nothing to do with him, he pulled over and just basically, and basically reported it to just make sure everything was okay. So what we do with these videos is basically they sit down with their safety supervisors at the end of each quarter, and then they go through, they review them to try to figure out what the pros and cons are. With the teen driver videos, what we do is we have them sit down with their parents at the end of each week. And what we say is it's not a parent monitoring, it's a parent mentoring program, because we want parents to basically, give their child positive feedback about what's right and wrong, so that we can kind of see how the enhancements work. And what we have found out is that, over time, if they're given, continual mentoring by parents, even those who have not worn their seatbelts, they start wearing it, and then over time they start kind of learning from that behavior, which is a good thing. So, I'm sorry, let me just go. So I have just one more thing, and then we can kind of open it up. Let me put the video, let's see. So this is, one of the things that I like about the work that I do is it is actually very interdisciplinary. So I've done projects with people over at the hospital at Harborview and UW Medical Center. And this is a project that, basically just talks about some of the work from the public health side as well as from the engineering side. So one of the things I think is really cool about industrial engineering is that there's a lot of opportunities to work in many industries, including manufacturing, transportation, as well as in healthcare. So this is an example of how that work all comes together.
Texting that makes it almost a compulsive Pavlovian response. Hear the bell somehow.
Make it loud.
Yeah, I'll try.
The distraction from the cell phone basically sucks you into another
Okay,
world.
great.
Dr. Beth Ebel is a trauma specialist at Harborview Medical Center. Her work with victims of car collisions has led her to conduct a variety of studies on the dangers associated with distracted driving.
I work every day at the trauma center.
Can you see in the back?
For me, when I'm on service, I'm taking care of injury when it's already happened. So it does get me to focus on, is there something that could have been done to prevent this injury so this person didn't have to be here in the first place?
The results of her most recent study are startling. At any given time, as many as 4% of drivers in Washington are texting.
When you're texting in the car, the study suggests that the risk is equivalent to a 23-fold increased risk of crash, which is equivalent to an alcohol level of 0.19. You could hardly find your car if you had an alcohol level of 0.19.
Dr. Ebel's research has done a lot to show trends among distracted drivers, but looking at it as a public health issue alone will not be enough to solve the problem.
We are going to need better technological solutions. Your phone is smart. Right now, it's a little bit outsmarting you. That's the risk.
If I seem distracted, it's because I'm operating a driving simulator here at the School of Industrial Engineering. You see, data from hundreds of these simulations, as well as from actual crashes, have shown that driving while distracted, especially while texting, can be about as debilitating as driving while drunk. And I'm on the wrong side of the road.
And they did it because
That's me.
Because the steering wheel was in its way.
Dr. Linda Boyle operates a human factors and statistical modeling lab, where she is approaching distracted driving from a technological perspective.
Technology is just not going away. So we're not going to be able to just get rid of all these different types of distractions. So our goal from an engineering perspective is to look at how we can actually use technology to help mitigate the effects of technology. For example, we have an eye tracker. But one of the things that we can do with the technology is when you're looking off the road for too long. So for example, we can use the eye, like your eye movements, and recognize when you've been looking at the in-vehicle device compared to on the road, and then provide you a warning as to whether or not that you should be now looking back at the road. So we're testing such a system on the road with truck drivers right now.
This kind of creative engineering, combined with education about distraction and enforcement of policy, are the kinds of solutions we need to make roads safer.
I think in the future, one of the things that we really should look at is whether or not we can use technology to help provide better information to drivers. I really do believe that if you tell people what they're doing right or wrong at the moment, that they can actually learn from their mistakes.
Distracted driving, especially in the form of texting, is a modern problem, and it's going to take modern solutions in medicine, technology, and law to solve. Luckily, places like the University of Washington have experts from all of these perspectives collaborating so that we can take the next step forward. So remember, next time you get in the car, know what your risks are. I'm Austin Siegenthoff, and I'll see you next time.
BMW still exists, and they actually still have that iDrive. It's actually in many of their cars. It's actually over 100, it can be up to 120K. And they've actually done a lot of things with it. They put in like programmable shortcut keys. They put in voice recognition. And the next generation, they're planning on putting in gestures so that you can actually use just your hand movements to basically make changes. But the past complaints have been like there's a steep learning curve associated with using this. Drivers still take a long time and they look away from the road too much. And it can take hours to adapt. So they're still making all these changes, but you can see that there's still a lot of reviews on there. And like one of them is like the BMW iDrive really sucks. So just kind of think about that. And you know, that's the end of the presentation part. And what I wanted to do is make sure I left a lot of time open for questions. I have my email here and the industrial engineering website, as well as the human factors website.
What's been the experience like being an aerospace engineer and being an industrial engineer? Is that a double major, or how that marriage works?
Space engineering?
Yeah, aerospace.
Oh, aerospace, okay. So oftentimes, and I think Jennifer might be better at answering about double majors, maybe I'll just turn it over to you.
Yeah, each engineering discipline has its own degree, its own professional degree. So in the College of Engineering, there are not double majors. It would have to be a double degree, which would be an extra year, at least an extra year of study and 220. You know, given with Boeing in the area, there is quite a bit of overlap. But we have not had any students do double degrees with aeronautics and astrophysics.
But you can do a master's.
Oh, yeah.
We actually waitlisted classes with Aero and Astro, actually. We have a few at the master's and undergraduate level.
And how long is the master's?
Going full-time, 1.5 to 2 years. We also have a part-time evening degree master's program. If you went part-time, it would take 2 to 3 years, depending on how many classes you took each quarter.
And Archis is actually our graduate program coordinator, so he could probably answer some more questions about the graduate program. But oftentimes, many of our graduate students, they don't necessarily have to have an industrial engineering degree. What we look for is a math and science core curriculum. Is that correct?
Yes, so many of our master's students actually have degrees in other disciplines, including aeronautics and mechanical engineering.
Yes.
Are there many clubs or activities, organizations specific to industrial?
Yes, there are. So we have the industrial engineering, the student chapter, and they actually do a lot of stuff together. We actually also have, they actually set up an endowed student group as part of industrial engineering to kind of help foster some more stuff. So many of our industrial, and they start, as soon as they come in or however, whenever, they can even start earlier, I guess, but they like have barbecues, they have mock interview programs, they have resume writing workshops, they also go skiing together. So there's a lot of, fun activities associated with, helping them, with career development. And that's all part of the industrial engineering student group. So there's two, actually. There's the industrial engineering student group, that's for everybody. And then we also have an honors society group too, the Alpha Pi Mu. So, yeah.
What do you suggest for freshmen coming in this fall
Yeah.
who aren't sure what kind of engineering they're interested in?
Yes.
How would they find out more about it, and what is your admission process like?
Okay, so we, this is the last year that we're having, as you know, the freshman coming in. Is he already starting as a freshman?
Will be starting.
Will be. Okay, fantastic. So is my son, by the way. So anyway, so if you're going to be taking the first 2 years are just like what Jennifer was saying. It's going to be the same curriculum as everybody else. There is a seminar series that I would highly encourage you to take it. That's usually for undecided engineering majors. So by the way, my presentation, I would give it again as part of this engineering, and it would be a lot more detailed because I have an hour there. And I go through more about like the details about like what we're going to be doing in industrial engineering. So there's an engineering seminar series. But as a freshman, I would also highly encourage you to talk to the academic advisor. So when you come in to set up an appointment with Jennifer, and she can go through the curriculum in more detail. And she also has some information about the curriculum today too, if you want to look at it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then do they apply after their freshman year?
They can apply after their freshman year. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for students who are admitted to the UW for autumn 2017, they have to take the core pre-engineering curriculum the first year. If they have completed the calculus series and 2 quarters of the science, at the end of the first year, they can apply for early admission to the program and get in, and then they'll start in the program as a sophomore. Most students wait till the end of sophomore year. That gives them a chance to take the other engineering fundamental courses, maybe figure out which engineering discipline they want to pursue. And most students will apply for upper division admission after the second year. But I have our 4-year curriculum. This assumes you come in with no AP or IB credits, which is very few people now. And this assumes you're able to start in the calculus series. And this shows you how you can graduate in 4 years. And I also have the admission requirements listed on here.
And you had a question?
Yeah, a couple of them, really.
Yeah, great.
First off, is internships required for this major or highly recommended?
Yeah, it's not required, but
Okay.
it is, I do think it's highly recommended. Oftentimes students do it during the summer, because that's when because all the core classes are in the academic year, in the 9 months. So they usually take the summer to basically do some summer intern. Many of our students do summer internships like at Boeing, Amazon, Starbucks, yeah.
And then the second question, thank you. And then the second question is really kind of class sizes when you get up into the upper level classes.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So our class sizes are about like 50 to 60. Would you say that's about
So I
right?
think a typical 300 or 400 level class is about 50. Some of them are 45, some of them are 60.
Yeah.
We have
So
some,
45 to 60
yeah,
is about the
60.
range, yeah.
We have some classes in the first year and second year that are larger because many other majors also take those classes.
Yeah, so like some of the classes that basically many other departments take, like the probability and statistics 315, which is one of the core classes, are required from like across all disciplines. So that one's a little bit larger, it's like 150 students. So when you get into the upper class, like if you take my class, I actually try very hard to get to know everybody's names. So I actually know, just so that you know, if you're not coming to class or not. I do, so, any other, yeah.
Would you consider your department a learn by doing environment?
In what context? Like, there is a lot of, there's a lot of, like, group projects as part of the classes. Like in my class, like, one of the classes I teach is design of experiments. And one of the things that you're asked to do is basically work on an experiment and then try to figure it out. And then that's the final project in the class. The senior design, the capstone project, is a kind of a learn by do by working with a company. And it's based on all the stuff that you've learned up to date and basically trying to figure out how to apply it in a real world setting. So is that what you mean by, yeah?
Can I add to
Yes.
that? Most of our classes also have, I guess, a project component where
Yes.
it's basically a computational assignment, of sorts, where they use either a statistics-based
Yes.
software or a applied math-based software to actually do something,
Right.
and that's kind of part of the learning by doing approach.
Yeah, so if I can add to that, so a lot of students nowadays, so like in the past, most of the people, and there's still a lot that basically go into like Boeing, Amazon, the more the traditional manufacturing systems and their approach. But there's also now a good handful that's moving toward places like healthcare, looking at data, because of all the training that we do in mathematics and statistics, and we also give you the tools to do programming in these areas. They actually learn how to do things like, what's called big data or looking at data analytics. So many of them actually go into the companies working on those areas. Yes?
And I'm curious how many of your undergraduates, that graduate, I think I saw them at 53 or something
Uh-huh.
last year.
Yeah,
What percent of that go out to the workplace right away?
that's a very good question. I would say about 95%
Yeah.
And
go
do
to
they
the
have
work.
jobs when they
Yeah,
graduate?
yeah.
And I think a large portion
And the
of our
last
students
5% go to
actually-
graduate school.
Yeah, and a large portion of our students, they stay in the area also because there's
Yeah.
so many companies. So of those 95%, I would say 85% maybe stay here.
Stay
I
right
don't know
here,
the numbers,
yeah.
but a lot of
Like in
them
the
stay
Puget
here.
Sound area,
Puget
not-
Sound
yeah.
area.
Yeah. They
And the
just-
companies come to campus to?
Yeah, we have there's a lot of career fairs on campus and then in industrial engineering themselves, because I think I mentioned already about our executive advisory board, and we have a lot of people that are in in the consulting firms. But they've also been basically in managerial positions at like Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing. We actually have several people from Boeing on and they basically kind of help them seek out jobs too. So we have a very close relationship in that context with local industry. Yes.
So would this industrial engineering be good for project management?
Yes, very much so. We do a lot of stuff with regards to project management. So almost everything that you do in all your classes is very project related and trying to give you the skills to not only coordinate a project but manage a project. And then even one day become CEO of a company. Yeah. Yes.
So, I've been noticing that industrial engineers are upper management.
Yeah.
It
But they
could-
don't just jump to upper management.
But
Yeah.
that's a tendency.
Yes.
It's not a very, very far away step, from,
Right.
in the nature of it,
Uh-huh.
it propels you to upper management very easily, I believe.
I think that, if I understand your question correctly, there are many of our students that over time, they do go into some sort of upper management position. That is correct.
Right,
Yes.
and that comes along with a very good salary too.
Yes.
In
Yes.
comparison
Yes.
to the other engineering.
Yes.
That,
Yes,
okay.
that is correct. They do over time, their salary starts to, increase dramatically. Yes.
You had a list of like companies
Yeah.
that students work with for their capstone
Right.
projects. Can you tell us about a couple of the projects
Sure.
that students are doing this year?
Oh, this year? I'm not really sure about this year because it's still kind of in the works. But I can tell you about some of the projects that they did like in years past. So, for example, like at the UW Medical Center, they basically look at like their like emergency facility and trying to figure out like looking at layouts, for example, and how to basically streamline the process to get patients to like whatever station that they have to as quickly as possible. We've also worked with startup companies. So we worked with, there was like a food product company that basically wanted to start up, but they didn't really have, going back to project management, like how to actually set everything up. They knew what they wanted to do, but they didn't know how to get there. So we have like a 6-month project that helps students get there. We had a UPS project that basically looked at how they basically routed facilities, routed packages, and then how best to set that up. Amazon now, they basically have what's called the Amazon locker to just put items in. How do we actually use those, as best as possible? And in addition to the fact that some people just want to deliver it to their homes, like how do they manage those things?
So there's projects in supply chain management, for example,
Yes.
like, places like Amazon or Boeing and other companies as
Yeah.
well. PACCAR maybe would be an example of a supply chain management type problem.
Right. So we had a project one year with Eastside Baby Corner. So this was really cool. It was a nonprofit organization, and they basically get a lot of, clothing and items for babies, and how to basically, kind of just redesign the layout so that they can efficiently put everything and then pull things out as quickly as possible. So these projects, so remember, this is an undergraduate project, so they do it so that it can be doable within 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, they basically have to give a presentation not only to, the University of Washington, but also to the company. So they get practice like doing both. And then they have to have like some sort of an outcome. Yes?
One more question.
Sure.
What percent of the applicants that are after their sophomore year in this industrial engineering, what percent get in?
About 30%.
I think it's closer to 38%,
Yeah.
but I want to add the caveat that a lot of people apply to multiple departments.
Yeah.
Some of that 38% are people who put us last choice kind of thing, so that does skew the statistics a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, so this is actually not a bad question, because I get this a lot from students, which is, oftentimes if you put us, let's say there's 10 majors and you can put up to 7 departments. If you put us as number 7, I don't care if you have a 4.0 or not, I'm not going to let you in, because I feel like you're just trying to get into an engineering department. I really want you to truly want to be an industrial engineer. And I actually do a more holistic approach to reviewing these applications. In addition to looking at your GPAs, and I also look at your essays. I look at what it is about industrial engineering that you really want to do. And I have a sort of a tendency toward that, to be frank. Yeah, and that's true also, can I say, that's also true, like, if you look at some of the percentages about like how many they admit across the whole entire department, it's true across all, because everybody gets more than one option. So, I mean, the good news is, you can get into like 2 departments, and then you have to make the choice. So even if you put something as first and second, you can still make that choice at the time that you get the offers. Yeah, were you gonna say something?
I was going to add, going back to the senior design, in our hallway, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
in the ground floor of this building, we have last year's winners. We have you can see the posters that they did for their senior design capstone projects. And we offer a prize for
Yeah.
second and third place, as well as a prize for the best use of systems engineering. So there's 4 posters displayed downstairs in the ground floor that you're welcome to go look at.
Right, and there's money associated with them.
Yeah, they get a
There's
cash
money,
prize.
yeah. And they're basically, the prize money actually comes from Boeing and from private donations, so.
One more question, I'm sorry.
Oh, ask as many as you want, don't be sorry.
We've talked about the industrial side, but there's also the systems engineering
Correct.
side.
So in our mind, so it's called industrial and systems engineering, but it's really, it's integrated.
It is, okay.
It is, because basically if you think about like everything that we talked about with in regards to industrial engineering, it's looking at the entire system and looking at how things come in and then what's the flow moving out. And as things move in, there's basically a quality check that we have to do. We have to make sure people are safe, that if they work in a manufacturing environment, particularly with robots, because there's a lot of robotics going on, that they don't get hurt, they don't get chopped by the robot. And we actually spend a lot of time looking at these issues. So, thank you, Archie.
I will leave some open.
Yeah.
Close most.
Yeah. So those are to me like those are very interesting issues, and those are very important. Like in the work that I'm doing in transportation, it's actually kind of evolved looking at the robotic side, but also unmanned aerial systems, because there's a lot of them, and then how do they coexist? And then with Amazon trying to deliver things with drones, how do we actually take that into account, that so that somebody doesn't just shoot them down or something?
I also want to add, we do have a Indy 470, which is joint listed with Aero and Astro 470.
Yes.
It's a systems engineering class that you can take. It includes a lot of project management content as well. So that's,
You said that your handout.
Maybe we can hand that out.
Yeah, it's not listed on here because it's just an elective, it's not a degree requirement, but
These
it's
are
offered
the
every
degree
fall.
requirements.
What is it called?
Indy 470,
Indy.
IND, Indy 470.
INDE is like basically the standard for all of our classes. INDE stands for industrial engineering.
Okay.
So INDE, and then so if you see INDE as the first part of the class number, that means it's an industrial engineering class.
IND
Yes,
470.
Yes.
yes. other questions? I'll be here if you want to, answer anything else. So you can ask as many questions as you want. I'm good. Yeah.
When do students apply to the College of Engineering? Is that changing for the
So this is the last year that they're just going to apply to just the University of Washington, and then they can check that they're interested in engineering. Next year is starting for the freshman class of fall of 2018. There's going to be an option to go direct to college. For those who know for sure that they want to go into engineering, there's going to be slots available to just go direct to college. Direct to college doesn't mean that you're actually in a specific major, but it does mean that you are in the College of Engineering and you're guaranteed a spot within one of the engineering disciplines. Yeah. Any questions about that?
How does it work for, as far as that related to students that were freshmen this year?
Yeah, it has no effect on them.
As far as getting into a program since they are having to apply without that benefit of being guaranteed.
So, it's interesting. So this is, they won't have that benefit, but they will still basically be able to get in. It's going to be exactly the same as it was last year, which is they take the classes, and if they get above a certain GPA, then they are eligible to basically, go into any of these majors. And then basically we review. So it is the same. It has no impact on them whatsoever. And I will say that, there's pros and cons. And so at the dean's office, we're still kind of weighing out the pros and cons, but it is because there has been concerns that people are not getting directly into engineering, that basically, people have changed this to direct college. That being said, they're going to be letting a lot less people in to engineering for this reason. And so, so what they're hoping to do is that good students don't just kind of move to Wazoo or some other school. And so they're trying to prevent that. And it's not really clear at this point, what the implications are. We're hoping that it's going to be better, but, it's not really 100% guaranteed, to be frank with you. Yes?
Is that the first and second year curriculum going to change at all as a result of the direct?
So there is going to be, one of the things that we want to do for those that are direct to college, they're working on it. They're not in place right now, but we're working on more, like these classes more to just let people know what all the different engineering majors are. So right now we have this seminar class, this engineering seminar series that basically goes through each of the engineering. But it's like I come and I give a presentation like once in the whole entire quarter. So they want to kind of give it a more integrated approach in that freshman year, so that students can basically make a much more concrete, choice when they're making that decision. Instead of saying, I come in and I want to be, like, let's say, computer science. Most people want to go into computer engineering because they like to play with computers. But actually, as like I was mentioning here, almost every single engineering discipline uses computers to some degree. It's how you want to use the computers. So that basically then will kind of help you, basically make a much more wiser choice by having these classes that can help you learn more about that. Yeah.
Is that the engineering exploration class? Or
yeah, I don't remember the exact
else?
name, to be frank with you, but I think it's either engineering exploration, engineering for society, engineering 101, but it's basically a freshman level class that it's taken by all the students who have not declared or do not know they're not direct to freshmen, and that they just don't know what engineering that they want to do, and they just want to learn more about all the different engineering. Yeah. Do you remember the exact?
I think it's engineering 100, but
I think it's engineering 100.
I think for the new direct to college, they may come up with a different class and make it a requirement.
Thank you.